Demonstrators in Oakland have spread out across the city, some on the move, while others have gathered downtown where we've seen a number of smashed windows. And it was a frightening scene in San Jose tonight as a car drove into the crowd, appearing to seriously injure one person. It came at the end of a day full of demonstrations featuring multiple confrontations between protesters and police.
We're live all over the Bay Area tonight with team coverage of today's protest. Let's get right to Da Lin, who is in Oakland for the very latest. Da?
Ken, it's been a chaotic evening here. What started out as a peaceful protest has turned into a lot of violence in terms of vandalism, looting, and chaos. I want to first point you to, let's start with Chase here on this side right now. Chase Bank, they had a lot of pieces of plywood covering all those windows. Well, the protesters actually took it down, ripped it off, and broke all of those windows. They went inside and got other objects to break more windows inside Chase Bank. And before that, they actually did quite a bit of damage to Walgreens, and that's across the street right now. They actually set fire in there. So that was the first major business to go down, basically. That mob mentality just took over, and they actually, a lot of protesters started breaking down the windows and the front glass doors, and then they started going inside to basically grab all the merchandise and products and started running out. And then someone started setting some kind of fire in there, and so I'm sorry, guys. We have folks just kind of running around the camera right now. So let's just sorry, guys. We just have some. We just have some rowdy crowds just kind of following the camera right now. So once they set the fire to Walgreens, there wasn't a whole lot anybody could do, and the police were nowhere to be found because their strategy was just kind of stay away from the rowdiness and to stay away from these very angry protesters. But then protesters kept going office after office to break more windows, more doors. One law firm I saw, a lot of protesters going in, try to set fire, breaking things inside, and then they just kept doing that here at this plaza that is right next to City Hall. We're going to just walk back a little bit just because there's a lot of rowdy folks here, and within the last 15 minutes or so, police officers, both Oakland police officers and Alameda County Sheriff's Department in riot gear started to move in because they wanted to try to get the rowdy protesters to leave so that they can start to put out the flames. Though we have not seen any firefighters out here just because it is just still too dangerous. But you can see the police officers showing a lot of restraint, basically forming a line there to make sure protesters cannot get back to cause more damage to Walgreens. There's a fire that's burning behind that line of police officers, and that was set also by the protesters earlier. It looks like a waste management, large waste management garbage can. In fact, there are two fires that we're looking at right now that are burning, both one on each side of Walgreens. And that prompted, again, the police to deploy tear gas, at least 4 or 5 canisters of tear gas deployed, and that made the crowd, and that forced the protesters to leave this area. But there's still a lot of protesters, I can tell you, around this area. They may not be gathering here in the center of Broadway and 14th Street, but around here, there's still a lot of them. And I apologize, I'm kind of losing my voice just from the tear gas earlier. But we're continuing to monitor the situation, and we'll provide some more updates throughout this newscast here.
All right, Da Lin, thank you so much. Also breaking out of Oakland, police investigating the shooting of 2 security guards, and we are learning they may have been employed by the federal government to protect the area around the Oakland Federal Building. Now, OPD says it may be unrelated to tonight's protest.
The KPI X5 reporter Maria Medina is live in San Jose tonight as the intense confrontations between demonstrators and police continue at this hour. Maria?
Yeah, and I want to tell you about a disturbing and pretty horrific scene that played out here at City Hall on 6th and Santa Clara just before 9:30. It's something that you never expect to happen. We're going to go ahead and show you video, but a quick warning for you that the video you're about to see is disturbing. We were standing by covering this protest when a white SUV, as you can see on that screen, turned onto 6th Street at a high rate of speed in the middle of the crowd. Protesters began throwing water bottles at the vehicle and yelling at the driver. Unknown why this all began in the first place, but we then saw the driver reverse, suddenly slamming on the gas pedal. The crowd started running, including myself and my news crew. Now, the SUV continued to make a U-turn on Santa Clara, and that's when it ran over 2 people. Sheriff's deputies, San Jose police officers who were holding the line, they quickly ran to the victims, rendered aid, and protesters, I got to tell you guys, the protesters, their mood shifted as well to that of sadness and anger about what happened. We spoke to a witness, and here's what he said.
And she rolled down her window and she said, "I have a baby, let me through." And then she just went all of a sudden. And then people were telling her to slow down because she's going really quickly. Ran over 2 people. I saw the wheel go over the person. It was awful to watch, absolutely awful to watch.
And from what we know so far, again, 2 people were hit. Their conditions, unfortunately, we do not know at this time. We have asked the Sheriff's Office and San Jose Police, and we're still waiting to hear back on their conditions. On a separate note, the Sheriff's Office was involved in a shooting at the same intersection just before that SUV barreled through the crowd. Unknown if the 2 incidents are related. But again, I got to tell you guys, as soon as that SUV ran over 2 people, the mood shifted here. Where there was a large presence, a crowd of protesters and police presence. Those protesters were not focused on their message. They were focused on trying to find that driver, and really just sad for those 2 victims who had been run over by the SUV. And as you can see at this hour, there really are no protesters here. There's a small crowd just a few feet away from us, but they're talking amongst themselves. But you can see police holding the line here, but really no protesters because of what happened. And I got to tell you guys, I am still pretty shaken up about what happened. That SUV, we didn't know if they were going to run, if they were going to drive toward us too. So again, just something you never expect at all when covering stories like this, guys.
All right, Maria Medina reporting live from San Jose. Thank you, Maria. The day started when protesters blocked Highway 101. Then things took an ugly turn. Yeah, the protesters were seen smashing the windows of just people in their cars and other vehicles in the area.
I command you to immediately disperse.
The protest then moved to city streets. It was declared an unlawful assembly, and the crowd was ordered to disperse. The police line began to advance on the protesters down Santa Clara Street toward City Hall, with officers firing tear gas into the crowd. And then this, a dumpster set ablaze and a parked vehicle badly damaged. Protesters moved a vehicle into the middle of Santa Clara Street, apparently to use it as a barricade. But police then quickly moved on the position to make sure activists weren't trying to ignite the vehicle.
A breakaway group of protesters took over a section of Interstate 880 in Oakland, and at one point they blocked lanes in both directions with surrounding vehicles. Let's get right to KPIX5's Andrea Nakano, who joins us live from Oakland. Andrea?
Yeah, the crowd is starting to disperse from the hot spots of 7th and Broadway and 14th and Broadway. And take a look at what's going on behind me. There is another fire right on this road here. People are pulling dumpsters out onto the streets and then lighting them on fire. Now, here's the interesting part about all of this is that there were a couple dumpsters out on the street. A man parked his car in the middle of the street to try to deter other people from hitting those dumpsters. And then it's maybe hard to see, but there are a couple people there with hoses trying to put out the fire. It's been a really interesting tug of war here between people who came here to cause trouble and the people who are here to just send a message about how they wanted to protest the killing of George Floyd. So it's an interesting kind of sense of emotions as people here really just want to focus on the message, and others have been causing trouble. Now, a lot of people have been speeding around this corner. It's really hard to see some of the dumpsters over there. Luckily, there haven't been any accidents. Now, we are just down the street from 14th and Broadway. Frank Ogawa is lit up over there, and as Dahl mentioned earlier, there was some looting over there by the Chase Bank and the Walgreens. The other issue now, as the crowd disperses, there's not a police officer in sight. That we've seen some. Oh, and there's a police officer now. As I just say that, the motorcycle officer is just going down these streets. But as the crowd disperses, there are little pockets of these neighborhoods now that are becoming danger spots. And it's not just concentrated at the 14th and Broadway by the City Hall or the police department. And it really did start off as a very peaceful protest, but you can tell as the night went on, just the tone of this just changed. As the tear gas was fired into the crowd, the boards at Chase Bank were taken off and the windows were smashed, and still people are out here just trying to protest and send the message that, to over the killing of George Floyd, but there are some people out here that are here to cause some trouble. Ken?
We want to check back in with KPIX5's Da Lin now. You've been monitoring the situation in Oakland all night. What's happening now, Da?
Juliet, you're looking at the inside of Chase Bank right now. So the sprinkler has gone off before because someone had tried to set a fire in there. So now the sprinkler system is working. And then here's a guy who's just kind of breaking what's left of that glass right there. As you can see, we're just going to step away. There's still some people who are still trying to cause more destruction here for this Chase Bank. The start of this was maybe about an hour 15 minutes ago, around 10 o'clock. I want to show you here, Miguel. Let's show this. This is what construction crews actually put down earlier today. They had the plywood boarded up to protect the windows, but protesters actually ripped all of that plywood off and started to use actually the plywood itself to break the glass, and a lot of them actually went inside, try to cause more destruction inside, and of course they set a fire. And that's what's happening right now, that there is this sprinkler system that is working, putting out that fire. I want to keep walking here a little bit more, and you can see more broken windows. Look at this bus shelter. Let's walk over here, Miguel. More damage here on this side of Chase Bank, starting with this bus shelter, the glass done. And you can see on this side of the Chase Bank here, more destruction, more damage. All these windows are basically broken. It's not the first time this Chase Bank has been the target of protesters. This Chase Bank has suffered quite a bit of damage in previous protests as well. You can see, boy, there's about an inch to 2 inches of water inside. I don't know if you can even see, guys. The floor is covered in water. I guess in a way you can say that's good news in the sense that it stopped the fire from continuing to burn. The bad news is there's a lot of water damage. Across the street is Walgreens. We're going to try to see if we can safely walk across the street. I want to show you something really quickly as we're going across. You see the plywood that's being put up there and some barricades? Those pieces were actually attached to businesses. Protesters ripped them out and formed a barrier and a barricade over there to try to prevent cars from coming in and the police officers from coming in. So now these cars are turning around. We're going to try to safely walk across the street. Stay with us, guys. Here's another bus shelter that's got quite a bit of damage. This is a brand new bus shelter here at the corner of 14th and Broadway, and you can see that there's a lot of graffiti. And here's Walgreens. I want to show you Walgreens here. Basically, windows all broken. A couple of windows still intact, and so you see folks are still coming out here. They're just so you can see actually a lot of folks still trying to take advantage, but you can see there's still a lot. So we're just gonna keep walking here. Bear with us here. You can see the smoke that's emerging from inside of this Walgreens. There's actually This has been burning for a while now, for at least 30-40 minutes. I'm surprised the sprinkler system has not been set off. So let's, oh my gosh, the smoke is so thick, it's just hitting us in the face right now. We're gonna keep walking here. So you can see a lot of these windows all broken. A lot of white smoke that's inside. I can see that the sprinkler is going off now. Actually, I do hear water. I do hear water. I do hear the sprinkler system being activated right now. So that's happening as we speak. Miguel, let's turn around. Here's what this was actually one of the fires that was burning hot and burning very large earlier. You can see most of the materials slowly burn itself out. Looks like it was plywood and 2x4s. Again, this was the plywood and the 2x4s used by construction companies and construction crews to board up the windows here at Walgreens. But now it's served as fuel for these protesters. Miguel, let's, and hey guys, I want to show you something here. I want to give you guys the lay of the land here. That right there, that's actually City Hall. So that's how close City Hall is to everything right here. And then on this side is a plaza of a lot of small businesses. You can see a lot of graffiti. Folks pretty much tagged up Walgreens and all these offices right there. And the police officers, those vans that you see in front of me, those are the police officers. Looks like they're in the vans going into Broadway and 17th, where there's a large active fire. So they're now being redeployed again. While they're doing that, we're going to walk over to some more buildings that have to this new building that I was talking about earlier today. That's got more damage. Take a look at this here. Here's another office that's got broken glass door and broken windows. Looks like this office space is actually empty, so not a whole lot for them to really vandalize there. We're going to keep walking over here. Bear with us, guys. So we're walking and assessing the damage here. Here's another company, CBRE. Again, broken glass doors, broken windows, and then of course graffiti. And also, we're talking about the law firm. Remember, guys, I was telling you guys about the law firm? This law firm has quite a bit of damage here. Looks like this is Hyman Law Firm. And you got folks actually kind of cleaning up the inside right now. So basically what they were doing earlier is they were using that large waste management garbage can and basically use that as the weapon to ram it against the large glass windows and glass doors, basically breaking all of these windows right here. And you can see a man who's now actually using a vacuum to clean up the water. Actually, there's that's the water that is actually triggered by the sprinkler system, because again, they try to set a fire inside. So just a lot of damage. I'm walking you through, showing you guys all that damage. It's just a snapshot of what's happening here in downtown Oakland. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right.
Unbelievable, and just
Live
that
report.
happening. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.